and graduated in biology in the Concepcion University in Chile. Then a degree in psychopedagogy, a diploma of second cycle in distance learning, and a master in design, instructional design from the Pontificia Catholic University of Chile and in the Tele University of the Quebec University. Carmen Gloria was responsible for the evolution of the distance education program in the Catholic University of Chile. She later on took the post of manager for the Virtual University of Chile. He performed and replaced the position of management of training and knowledge management for the Latin American Corporation of Networks Clara, and nowadays she is the executive director of the program for the Colegio Las Americas of the Inter-American University Program. Carmen Gloria, the floor is yours. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. First of all, I would like to express my thanks for the magnificent welcome that I have received from the Universidad Particular de Loja. This is the third time that I'm present in Loja. The first time last year was because I was invited to be part of the Inter-American University Organization, IOHE. It included the tickets to Loja. It was the first time, and in the forums, people were telling me everybody has been to Loja except you. So I finally made it. At the time, I had the opportunity of seeing and practicing in reality how knowledge management was implemented in higher education environments. And that opportunity also, the brand new presidency of IOHE was talking and putting in the agenda the topic of knowledge management, and from there a movement that permeates the organization has started, and it took its most noticeable expression in the campus program and now in the seminar that we're all attending. And nothing more pertinent than that, because the concept of knowledge management comes from the private sector and it has been adopted at university level, so nothing more pertinent, as I said in the last panel, that universities are institutions that generate and therefore disseminate knowledge, and therefore this should be one of the first tasks. So taking in context the two large ambits of universities, teaching and research, I would like to refer in this opportunity basically to research and to the Hansa networks as a structure of support, so that the generation of knowledge occurs and eventually knowledge management, particularly at regional level in a rather complicated area. We have to understand that according to data, in Latin America we're investing between 0.2 0.3 of the GDP in research and development, compared to developed countries where we are on the average of 2.2%, and with the exceptional case of Japan that spends 3.3% in research and development. So we have an enormous challenge in order to be able to add ourselves to the global scenario. It is in that context that I would like to make my presentation on advanced networks. I would say that science in general and all over the world faces important challenges, more so in Latin America, particularly when we talk about the globalization of research on development. Today, it's unthinkable that researchers that are isolated physically can carry out research and respond to the big problems that society faces today. And I mentioned in this slide climate change, all the problems that we have regarding natural disasters, etc. So, in this context, besides responding to these challenges that are global in character, we need science to generate generation and dissemination of knowledge. And as we know, knowledge grows exponentially. 5 years ago, we were told how the amount of information was going to double or maybe triple in the upcoming years. But the truth of the matter is that all those predictions run short, and now we see that there's obsolescence of knowledge, and there's also a need for additional knowledge. Technology moves and accelerates. I'm speaking of universities, have to add on to that accelerated pace and have to give an answer to all these challenges. In this context, researchers and the scientific community need, in general terms, large databases, taking in consideration the need to generate, to uh, harvest, and to disseminate knowledge through sophisticated systems that are not necessarily practical for all entities, and neither can they afford it. And when we speak about this scientists, we have a few of them, and they are only in a few universities around the world. However, it is necessary to have access to them. The other is access to digital libraries and this scientific information repositories. Of course, it's a topic of first order, and it is inserted in knowledge management itself. And here I speak particularly about Latin America and the challenge that we face of becoming part of the global scientific body. Latin America is a continent, as it has been said, asymmetrical, where only a few countries have been able to make progress in a significant manner. We can highlight particularly Brazil, Mexico, Colombia lately, Chile also, and where there are national innovation systems, science and technology that are in a very embryonic stage with very little development, and besides that, with both vertical and horizontal policies that are very asymmetric in the entire Latin America, so the challenge is enormous. In this context, the advanced academic networks emerge, and there's a lot of myths around them. Some people speak about advanced networks, and some speak about internet too, and they think that the networks are networks parallel to internet, etc. In the year 2005, in the meeting of ministers, these authorities on science and technology made a declaration and recognized advanced network as a fundamental instrument to give the necessary push to countries to move into advanced economies and advanced technologies. But what are these advanced networks? And this is what I would like to attempt to clarify in this very few minutes. On the one hand, advanced academic networks are new generation or research and communication networks. What does this mean? Because here we're part of a network. IOHE is a network, so these are networks that gather research and teaching institutions for the purpose of research that can be fostered and shared amongst themselves. And this has changed. Advanced networks are seen as Internet too. This is the North American network, which is the best known. We're only research centers, but nowadays networks such as CNAE, which is the Canadian network, is been incorporated to institutions, hospitals, even high schools, in a way that will allow to bring these academic networks, which are basically linked to research, to other sectors of society. On the other hand, these ALSA networks do not cross over the conventional networks such as Internet, and these lead us to clarify one point. The academic advanced networks are physical networks, are telecommunication networks, are fibers that allow for the transmission of large databases. So we have one point where we mentioned that these are physical infrastructures that provide support to a series of investigation objectives, and on the other hand, we could state that the advanced networks are the different regions are interconnected. So we have advanced networks already in Latin America and Europe and the United States, Canada, Asia, Africa. In other words, we're interconnected by means of a powerful infrastructure that is going to allow us to sustain and support research. What are the advantages of this advanced academic networks? Because some people are going to tell me, well, what is the difference if I can have access through internet to a repository, to a virtual library, I can do distance education. What are the real characteristics of these advanced networks? First of all, they are exclusively of academic usage, favoring cooperation between students, teachers, and researchers. This means that through an advanced network and through this connection, if we can call it so, we're not going to find virus, we're not going to find spam, we're not going to find all those elements that are becoming a hurdle in the transmission of data at commercial level. On the other hand, the demand is much higher than the commercial networks, and that's what allows us to do what we said at the beginning. It allows us to have access to research centers, it allows for data transmission, etc. And on the other hand, it provides a stable quality of service, which implies the absence of excessive congestions and failures in communications. All internet users are aware of this, and the access to this type of networks is not available through commercial internet. So this in fact is an exclusive academic network that runs through channels that are different. However, and I repeat however, this is a connection that is transparent for the user. For example, here at the university, at this University of Loja, we are connected to the CEDIA network, which is the Ecuadorian CEDIA network, and through the CEDIA network we're connected to the Latin American, and we can also go to Europe. But you students, professors that have access to the network only see the website and enter Google, but you do have a wide band that allows you to be connected to the academic worldwide network. That in order to clarify and eliminate some of the myths in practical terms. Another interesting topic, so that we abound in this issue of advanced networks, is that through them, and given their capacity of interconnectivity, their wideband capacity, it allows us to use applications that are highly innovative. Armando was referring to the innovative process, and this is very well adjusted in the sense that through these networks we can work in cooperative, interactive environments. And I remember approximately 4 years ago I was working with a project with the Montreal University, and the researchers, the computers, I'm sorry, of this university could have access to the applications that we have in the informatics room of the university and work just like if they were in the physical space in Chile. And that is quite interesting because in fact it allows us to come close and to do collaborative work. On the other hand, and I'm going to show you a few projects, it allows us to have a distributed capacity. As I told you, there is scientific equipment that is very expensive, but through the networks we can have access to them. On the other hand, we have the utilization of the network as the basis for computational services network. We're talking about the grid services, which are infrastructures that are particularly dedicated to work in determined ambits of certain disciplines. For example, we can have a grid on education, a grid on health, telemedicine, etc. And finally, another type of application that is known to this date because we don't know what's going to happen tomorrow is the deployment of information in virtual environments, flow of images, all those activities that require important wideband. Where are the advanced academic networks? As I was telling you, they are all over the world. You have there a deployment of them. In Canada, Internet 2, which is the most known for the United States. In Spanish we have Rederiz, in France Renater, in Italy GAR, and then we have more in Asia Pacific, Australia, China, etc. In this listing we have UTPL, that could cooperate through these advanced networks with the university centers of research that are in all these places and be part of the global community of investigation. What's happening in Chile? How are we organized in Chile? I recall that in the year 2000, for example, there were only 4 countries that were connected to the advanced networks, in particular to Internet 2, and they were Brazil, Argentina, Chile, and Mexico. But later on, and thanks to a project of European cooperation, we have the Advanced Latin American Network Cooperation Office. It's a system of cooperation through advanced networks of telecommunications for innovation and improvement of education. And why do I stop at this point? Because although the core of Clara is the physical telecommunications network, also on its footsteps we have a system of cooperation because it is understood that we can have a very large infrastructure. However, if there is no cooperation, if there is no regional integration, as the person from Palatino was saying, there's not going to be research. Claro's objectives are set for here, and given that I have a little bit of time, I would like to show you some practical projects because you learn the reality about things when you see tangible, concrete things. The national networks, you have them all there. There are 13. Among them, we have CEDIA, which is the Ecuadorian network, and we have all these national networks, which in turn gather universities. And starting last year, we have the ALISA project, which is funded by the European Commission, that is born after the importance of these networks is accepted in the European area on the one hand, the advanced services of internet, the advanced networks on the other hand, the new methods of cooperation which is needed in order to face the challenges of science, and on the third place, everything that has to do with virtual research entities. And departing from that context and departing from that importance that Europe places in advanced networks and their connectivity with Latin America, the ALISA project emerges. There you have a map that shows how the countries in Latin America are interconnected and how they go out to Europe through connection nodes. I'm not going to stop in the technological aspect, but you can take a look at the presentation later on. The important thing about this is this slide, which is here, far beyond the physical infrastructure, and it has to do with knowledge management, is the possibility that we have of being a group of research communities where we are working in order to respond to global challenges. Here in the earlier session and also yesterday, when they refer to the importance of knowledge management and the importance that this has in the innovation processes, it has been mentioned that there is an important element which is here and allow us to have a firm substrate in order to be able to make progress. But certainly, I already said, infrastructure is one thing, but what we need is this other element: integration, being able to share, being able to socialize, and know what is happening on one side and on the other, and do knowledge management. I would like to tell you a little bit about the projects in Latin America. For example, we have a large-scale experiment in biosphere of the Amazon region. We have 281 institutions in this project. In Latin America, it is led by Brazil. There's a multidisciplinary team, and they have been working for a few years in attempting to establish and explain how the use of soil of the Amazon region affects the regional and global climate. This is the research that you can carry out through advanced networks. On the other hand, we have the European South American Network for the assessment of climate change and impact studies. Again, complex problems that require cooperation. Another project, the University Network on Medicine, That is the result of the ALICE program, of the framework program of the past, that nowadays, besides fulfilling the initial objectives now, it includes other countries of Latin America in order to carry out telemedicine projects. Other projects of computational grids to bring together the European infrastructure with the Latin American ones are present here. In about to conclude because I've been told I'm running out of time. We have many examples, many like this one. This is the Ring Grid project that gathers 8 countries and their instruments, and it allows to share images at a real velocity in real time, and allows to make progress very quickly and do studies at astronomical level. Scientific repositories. This is a scientific repository that is going to allow to have a federated document management system and information provision. And with your permission, just 1 minute to say the following in the regional context of ours. Here we have a lack of policy, yes, around advanced grids. We have a high asymmetry between our universities. We have a low and dispersed critical mass that needs to be coordinated, and we have a diversity of issues that make regional convergence difficult. Alfredo Correa was just speaking about the relevant role that the networks could play and how we could sponsor convergence and integration. We need to establish common agendas regarding the areas of research. We need to have a strategic agenda. Latin American cooperation has been working on this, but we truly need to be able to generate this critical mass so that we can make the best out of this advanced networks. Let me move very quickly through this. You can review it. The challenge, the invitation is to conform communities of researchers working on priority issues for Latin America. On the other hand, integrate ourselves to the global community with a science, technology, and innovation system that is robust as the basis for development in Latin America. Otherwise, all this infrastructure, all these discussions, all these meetings will be dead letter. My invitation is to do that, to continue working, to continue integrating ourselves and cooperating amongst ourselves. Thank you very much.